Welcome to the Instory Show. I'm Dvorah Billman, your host, and today I am thrilled to welcome Ashana. Hi, Ashana.
Hi, Deborah. How are you?
Wonderful. Our theme is how do you come out of hiding and dare to be seen for who you really are by saying yes to your soul and telling your story. So start us off, Ashana, with just tell us who you are now, what you do in the world, and then I would love to hear what I love to call your how did you get from there to here story.
Well, at this point in my life, after being a musician for 50 years and being involved in sound and vibrational healing for, going on nigh to 3 decades, I'm considered a world expert in healing sound with crystal singing bowls, a master crystal bowl player. I teach, I sing, I have many, 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 many recordings out. And after a lifetime of trying to find myself, I finally did. Or I should just say, I allowed her to be seen. How's that?
That's probably a better way to say it because I think we find ourselves at each stage only that's only part of the story in
It's
some ways.
exactly right.
So well, all right, so look, we see all these gorgeous singing bowls behind you and and it feels like some people they did one thing and then they left that completely and did another, but for some of us I'm kind of like you, like you progressed your inherent gift to next dimension in a lot of ways. And so do you have kind of a turning point story that really made that difference to feeling like, okay, this is like you said, I found myself. I don't know where she was before. No, I'm good.
Well, where she was before was just just investigating, you know,
Mhm.
growing and experiencing and tasting and kind of walking along my life and going, is this it? Is this it? Is this it? And the answer to the is this it? Is this it? Was often yes and yes and yes and. So when I look back now at 67, and I turn back and I look at the arc of my life, I see every single one of those steps as so significant. And I could absolutely not be here right now doing what I do if I hadn't done everything that I've done. And some of those steps have looked really strange to me. It's like, well, why in heaven's name did you go there? And why were you doing this? And I would have to say, on some level, I was following the divine breadcrumbs, but I didn't really know that I was doing that. And in retrospect, I feel that the bigger me, the larger me, the wiser me, from which the smaller me was actually pretty disconnected for most of that time. But the larger me had a voice and a space and a trajectory that I was following, whether I knew it or not.
What do you think is the difference between those two voices? Like, what is that like bigger me kind of? What does she know that the smaller you didn't know?
Well, you asked what's the difference between the two voices, and the two voices is really, really distinct. And the voice of the larger me, the sense feeling of that is one of expansion, it's one of joy, it's one of peace, it's one of not excitement, but delight. It's one of assuredness. It's one where excitement kind of combines with fear, that you just go, I know I need to do this. I don't really know why, and I'm scared out of my mind, but I'm going to do it anyway. And there's all those qualities that are where the bigger me, the bigger us. Let's just call it higher self or divine wisdom, whatever languaging works best for you. That is guiding the way. And when the small me gets involved, the little Ashana, she's involved, or she's engaged, or she's driving the car, right? It's usually there's one foot on the emergency brake and one foot on the gas.
Yeah,
And
yeah.
sobbing, going, oh, but what if so and so thinks, or what if these people are think, or what if what are my parents going to think, my family going to think, oh, I'm not going to make enough money, or I'll never work, and and it's that kind of relentless na that goes in the head that energetically feels like we're being squeezed.
Yeah.
Get so used to being squeezed that we live a life inside of being squeezed.
Mm.
And there come certain times, you just asked me about it, what was like a pivotal time in my life, in my career, when I just went like this and I broke the straitjacket open. And it was I had been prepping for this movement. In retrospect, I'd been prepping for that time for quite a while. I'd had this feeling for the longest time as an artist, as a singer and musician, that I wanted to make music. I wanted to be on the road going on tour. I wanted to do my own original material and songs. I wanted to create recordings that were absolutely amazing and beautiful. And I didn't know what that was going to look like. And in 1999, the Crystal Singing Bowls appeared in my life through just you know, one of those synchronistic moments when somebody called me, said, do you know what these are? I said, no. She said, they're right up your alley. I bought one sight unseen. It arrived in my house. I opened up the box. I looked at the tap beside of the bowl and I went, oh, light has come to live in my house.
Wow.
And I had burst into tears. And the second thing that I thought was immediately, one day I'm going to put these into music.
Wow.
And it was so like I knew it. And 3 weeks later, I had 7. Those big white classic white. It took me 5 years, really, since it was in 2005. And through that period of my life, I was living in New Mexico. I was teaching a program, which I loved, called Music Together. It was doing programs for parents with young children. I was running 17 classes a week. I was having lots of experiences. I was in preschools I was running a business. I was doing all of this kind of stuff. And I was absolutely unfulfilled. I was doing it, and there was a part of me that was going, what are you doing? This isn't why you're here. But I was still, and I was kind of leaning into these bowls. And by that point in time, I had about 15, and I was doing sound before they even knew what sound baths were. I probably invented the word. I was going around, I was taking the bowls, I was taking people through experiences. I was creating sounding and toning with them. And there was this point in time, it was absolutely pivotal, where I knew that I could go deeper into teaching. And it was like the doorway was right there. And the other doorway was, you're done, sell the business, make your first album. And I was like, ah! and seriously. And I started having conversations with people I respected and who loved me. And there was this like, go ahead, sell the business. And, because it was like, do you really want to do this? And when I looked down that road of teaching and more certifications and, having teachers underneath me and blah, 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 and I was like sick. It's like, I don't want to do this. This is not where I am. And so I set everything in motion. I sold my business. Make a long story short, because it's a wonderful story, but I can make it really quick because I know we don't have those 3 hours we were talking about. I sold my business. I had one buyer. I was the only person who showed up, my business. I said, this is the price. He said, fine. I said, and it was literally was like that. And the same day I closed on the business, I met my producer, Thomas Barkey.
Wow.
And through a whole series of synchronistic, amazing events, that he and I had this connection. And then literally 3 months, was it 3 months later? That was in June. In September, I was in the studio. I made my first album, All Is Forgiven. It has sold millions and millions of copies.
Wow.
It was just, and there was, of course, all these things that were happening, you know, that the music that came out. And, I can tell you about being in the studio and starting this process and finally getting to the third day in the studio and feeling like, this isn't working. This isn't what I want. Marching into the studio and looking at Thomas and going, this isn't working. This isn't what I want. And he looks at, and I said, I came here to collaborate with you and write with you and write my own songs. And he looks at me and he goes, great, what key? I said, D flat. He said, let's go. Boom. Ave Maria was written. And that's the leading song on my album, All Is Forgiven. And it has gone on to help people heal from grief, from trauma, from loss, from chronic pain and illness. And I can't even tell you the impact that this one piece of music has had on a global scale. You know,
Mm.
it was because I said, I can't do this anymore. I'm in the straitjacket. I have to leave. And I literally flung myself out as if I was jumping off a cliff. You know,
Wow.
and it is of course we don't really jump off a cliff internally when we're breaking free of that conditioned mind, when we're breaking free of our old habits. It feels like, oh my God, I'm gonna die, and there is a feeling, because there is a part of yourself that is gonna die, and you
Yeah.
know it when you're just teetering on that edge and you go, okay, here we go. I'm closing my eyes and I'm jumping into the cold water, and you
Yeah.
just do it. If anybody asks me for what my advice is for a woman of 46, 47, 50, 65, 70, 85, whatever, right? Just do it. You know the path. If you're getting the feeling that you're expand that this is an expansion, this is time to grow, you do your due diligence. Of course, you look at the ramifications, and you but go deeper than what that logical mind is saying. And when there is a place inside of you that is sitting there in the center of your heart in absolute delight, and it's going like this, and you feel it, it's like a tingling, it's like a sensation of, what would it be like if, and that little thing just makes even a part of you, like the light just goes on. Then go there, just trust that. You take the tiny steps, you follow these tiny steps. It might say, pick up a phone call and call somebody. It might be, somebody says to you, have you ever heard of crystal singing bowls? And you go, no, and they're right up your alley. Okay, I'll do it. And you just, from one, you have seven, and from seven, you look in this room, there's 120 of them. And
Wow. Wow.
see them all, but they're like lined up. And they're my friends and
Yeah. Yeah.
and illumination, the expansion, the upliftment, that even now, 25 years of playing bowls and teaching bowls, and I have like 8 or 9 recordings out and 2 in the can that haven't even come out. And all of that, with all of that, I am still learning and growing,
Of
because
course.
moving beyond, shedding layers and layers of the place that says, I can't,
That's
and
right.
place that says, oh, absolutely, honey, you got this, you can.
Yeah. I think that's what we make such a difference for each other, because I completely agree with everything you're saying. And what strikes me about your whole story is that you didn't jump into something unknown. You jumped into your gift.
Yes, it's true.
Right? Like you jumped into your genius.
Yeah.
And I think this feeling that women often have is, I'm jumping into the unknown, but honestly, you're just jumping into the unknown of how the world will respond. You're not jumping into the unknown inside of you.
Oh, I love that, Dvorah. That's brilliant.
Right? So here's one thing that I have noticed is that I have this line I say, which is if it moves you, it will move your tribe. And a big part of why they're scared is not because you don't believe in your gift. It's because you think people won't like your gift. And it's just because you're showing it to the wrong people. That's it. That's it. As soon as you find your tribe, they will love what you do. And that it just struck me. The second you said yes, everything just showed up for you. And when you went in and said, I can't do it, he said, okay, come on, let's do it together. And you did it together and boom, it came out.
Mhm.
Don't have to do it alone. That is the other big thing. You are not alone. And I hope all of you watching are getting this feeling that you're not alone.
You are absolutely not alone, because what's that quote? I can't remember who said it. It was Rainer Maria Rilke, I think it says, that the whole universe now, once you say yes, then the whole universe conspires to set things in motion for you. And that has been my experience over and over and over again. I mean, I've been in this period of shift for the last year, because I've been feeling myself wanting to expand and grow even more in a certain way. I know. And I was in an absolute like, oh, I don't know what to do, and I don't know, that kind of thing. And I had this thought. It was a thought. This happened like in back in June. I had this thought. It was right around the solstice. And the thought said, call so and so. And and it was a person that I would never have called to just say, "Can you help me? Can you just listen to me?" And right? And I called him, and he was like, "Whoa, my sister, right? What can I do for you?" And I was like, and he goes, "You need to talk to so and so." I mean, literally within like 10 minutes of listening to me unload. You need to talk to so and so. And I had had this other thought that morning. Okay. And this is what my thought said to me: say yes. No matter what's happening, say yes. It was a clairaudient moment. It was like my angels was like, say yes. So he made this suggestion. This hours later, he makes this suggestion: talk to so and so. And could feel the part of me that would go like, "Nah, I don't want to call. I don't want to." And overriding that came like a galloping on a white steed in my brain went, say yes. So I said, okay, give me your phone number, right? And he immediately puts the two of us together. And this woman has changed my life. She's taking like all pieces of my work and my business and helping me clarify things so I can move in that new direction. And all I needed to do, because you have this, I'm talking to everybody in this who's listening to this, you have this dial up. It's amazing. It's the thing that comes in that little tiny voice in your head that goes, go here, listen here, touch this, buy this, look at this, walk there, call so and so. You have this. Trust it and say yes.
I'm so with you. Saying yes has been a big part of my teachings too. It's why I always say yes to your soul and tell your story.
Yeah.
Right? Because saying yes to your soul is how you get on the right path. Telling your story is how you come out of hiding
Yes,
and be
absolutely.
seen for who you really are. Because like you said, there's these stages of hiding. And even as you come out of hiding, you become more, just like you said, you become more expanded. So then you have the next challenging thing. Like you said, you're in shift, and I call it shift, shape, and share. Like you have to have your shift tools with you no matter what, because you're going to spiral to the next shift. And you just described that so perfectly, because we don't just go back into a box.
Yeah.
Like we just aren't allowed. We're being nudged right out of that way of being. And this ability to trust and say yes is extremely life changing.
It's life changing. It really is. And that's what makes life exciting and beautiful. And the more you do that, the more you feel like who you are is emerging. And
Right.
more you do that, the more you share your gifts, you're fulfilling your life's purpose.
No, that's right. Yeah, absolutely. So, all right, you told me before we got on that you were going to be going to Cambodia to give a talk, which is already in itself why Cambodia and so forth. But probably even more importantly is what is being called forward to speak about? Because like I think we're all on the edge of expanding this level of how do we shift up into this higher realm that's making a big difference.
Yes, yes, I'm so glad you brought that up. I am going to be a keynote speaker at the Global Crystal Singing Bowl Symposium in Angkor Wat, Cambodia, and
Wow.
in a month. So maybe by the time this comes out, I'll already have given my talk. But again, this was one of those things where, they were saying, well, you could talk about technique, you could talk about this, you could talk about this with the bowls, and I heard the voice. And the voice said to me, you're going to talk about activating the divine feminine through crystalline sound. And I was like, what?
Mm-hmm. Right.
So I'm like, really? You know? And then part of me was like, what do I know about activating the divine feminine? Well, apparently, I know quite a bit, but it's taken me through this journey of understanding all of these pieces and why crystalline sound is so powerful. And I am on a soapbox about this now. My husband was saying to me the other day, he says, "You're going to write a book," and I'm like, whatever. Right? It's just, but the learning about this and my passion for it is just huge, because we are, as we were talking about earlier before we came together, we are, as women and as a collective, we have lived lifetimes and lifetimes and thousands of thousands and thousands and thousands of years of suppressing our wisdom, hiding our light, keeping silent, living without or with very few models for treating ourselves as sacred, and understanding the connection of all life. And the more and more and more we keep ourselves separate as a collective from nature, from each other, and acknowledging that we are all divine, that the more we do that, the greater strife and divisiveness and cruelty and suffering becomes more and more apparent in our world. And for me, the bringing together the awareness and the understanding of the awakening, and the awakening humanity's understanding and awakening of the present to the presence of the divine feminine, which is in everything. Okay, we're not about women, we're talking about an energy, the energy of life itself in all of its myriad forms, whether it's thinking or believing or breathing, or the songs you sing, the people you meet. That is, we can call it God goddess in action, God goddess alive on the earth, all of that. And in the universe, not just the earth, but in the universe, the more we can quiet ourselves.
Mhm.
And this is the power of crystalline sound, is to help the distracted mind come into coherence with the expanded heart.
Beautiful. Ooh.
And we take that mind, we bring it into the heart, then we connect it up through high frequency sound.
Mm.
The mind begins to quiet, and then the crystalline nature of the sound allows us to activate what we have, our light bodies, and specifically one specifically, because we're in resonance with it, the activation of the crystalline light body. And that light body helps bring us into coherence and into a coherent structure with consciousness. When we do that, we then remember our oneness with all of life. everything becomes possible inside of that silence. Our connection with the deities, our connection with our multidimensional selves, our connection with our light supernal, the supreme absolute that is reflected in all of us.
Mm.
As we make that connection, it comes down and it begins to anchor itself in our heart and literally begins to anchor itself in our cellular memory, awakening our DNA at that
Mhm.
level in the mitochondria. This is the power of crystalline sound.
Wow.
So the two coming together, the sound current of crystal, and then if you depending on your background, whether it's Christian or other or any or agnostic or atheistic, whatever that looks like, you connect your intentions for healing, for well-being, for wholeness. The crystalline sound cannot help but amplify that and
Mm.
transmit it. And it is such a powerful ally for us in this time.
Wow. I'm in, I'm all in. All right, you better tell us about your free gift quick because no, it's like we are discovering things we didn't know before, right? Or recovering things that were known in the past. And this whole reconnection to this level of sound is something so profound. I find it so like it just wakes up my consciousness to, oh, this exists.
Yeah.
Right. And there are these expanded tools, like mine is all through imagination. And there are so many tools that we have access to that have been kept from us. And we are bringing them back. And so you have hold of something that is just true. That's the other thing I say is these things that are coming to us, they are true. And I want the women watching to trust the thing that they feel like that about. It's true. It may not be known, or you might not be used to it, but that doesn't mean it's not true. So, what you're talking about sound, I think, and what you said about aligning the distracted mind with the expansive heart, I was like, oh, I can feel that. Like, it's just so amazing what's possible now. There's just this expansion of possibility. We have these tools to get us out of this place where we got stuck. And once we're out, we then offer that ability to get unstuck to the next person. And like you said, we're being called to it. So, all right, tell us about your free gift so people can get to experience this.
I have a beautiful program called Celestial Alignment for Healing that we're going to be doing more and more with next year. And this is a seminal meditation, guided meditation with crystal singing bowls, and my music, my voice is involved in it. It's about 15 minutes long. People have had profound healing experiences from just listening to this meditation, let alone going through the entire program. So we're offering this to all the listeners here as our free gift, because I want you to be able to quiet your distracted mind so you can feel your expanded heart. And that's what this meditation
Right. And it's also that golden light, right? That's part of
is.
it, right?
Coming in.
Right, right. So just click the link, receive this extraordinary gift, and we have a little Facebook group for this show, and you can share if you got it, what you did, if it affected you, and you could share with us what's on your heart, what's calling you forward. All right, so before we wrap up, share a last couple of inspirational thoughts with us.
Oh my goodness. Trust yourself.
Mm.
Trust that you know what your next steps are, even in the places where you feel like you don't and you're struggling. Just give yourself the space and time. Go take a walk in nature. Go listen to golden light of healing. Go sit and find a place where you can just watch your breath quietly, because inside that stillness are all your answers,
Mm.
all the guidance that you need to move to your most brilliant, glorious, magnificent self.
I'm so with you on that. Yeah, I get that message all the time. Could you please sit still and be quiet so we can talk to you? So take that time, find your way in, grab a hold of the gift from Ashana and tune into this really powerful tool. If you've never done it before, you will see how powerful it is. Ashana, thank you so much for who you are, what you do, your beautiful light and story. It's just a joy.
Much love to you all.
And everybody, as I always say in farewell, remember, take all this in so that you can go out in the world, share your story, live your purpose, and be a blessing. Bye, folks.